Welcome. Today we're talking to Brian Botane and Carrie Olson, the founders and owners of Definitive Woman magazine. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Today I'd like to introduce the TV audience to Definitive Woman magazine. And I'd like to start by having you share a little bit about how you got started with the magazine.
Well, Brian, I'll let you take that one since it was basically his idea.
Probably 2007, I was approached over the phone by a women's magazine in St. Cloud that I knew the owner of, and she wanted to know if I knew anybody over in this area that would be interested in expanding her women's magazine to the Alexandria market. And when I said, why not someone like myself? And she did chuckle about that because I was a guy, as she put it, and just kind of parked that in the back of my mind. Never thought much about it again until I was over in St. Cloud and had seen the product, saw an opportunity. Carrie and I had just started officing together, just sharing space, talked about doing something together, and I brought the idea just directly to the office home from St. Cloud and said, what about starting a women's magazine? And with her personality, I was like, sure, absolutely, great idea. And I think by the end of the day, we had a name, and by the next day, we had a logo, and looked at each other and said, are we really going to do this? And it was as simple as that, and off we ran with it. Had, I guess, just brief meetings here and there between meeting each other in the office, and realized that we needed someone to head up the editing and writing department. And once we found Julie Zulke, off it went.
Yep. And I'd worked with Julie before on some other projects, and I called her one day and said, we're thinking about doing this, starting a women's magazine. The first thing she asked me was, what's the name? The name is super important. And I said, well, Definitive Woman magazine. And then there was silence, and she said, that's a good name. And when can we meet, and when can we talk? And oh, by the way, did you know I started a women's magazine years back? And so we just knew. It just happened that quickly. And so then Brian went into, business mode and did the research on distribution, and I put my editorial and storytelling and design hat on and worked with Julie and came up with our content of our very first magazine. And it was, the cover story was actually inspired by women who get tattoos. Sometimes it's that simple. So Ruth Partington was and her daughter and her granddaughters, they were our first cover girls and our first story. And we've had 22 issues since then.
Brian, you mentioned that you were familiar with the magazine in St. Cloud. How is Definitive Woman magazine, how does it set itself apart from other women's magazines?
That one in particular doesn't exist anymore. I don't recall a lot about it. It's called Among Women at the time. As far as setting itself apart, I think in our magazine, it has everything to do with the story writing and telling and the editorial. There are other women's magazines out there, other products geared towards women's interests, but nothing like this. Nothing with that human interest element, that from tributes to great storytelling to great writing to even the sections that we do every issue, the trends. Nobody does it the way that we do it, and that has everything to do with having a plan going forward and being able to alter that plan and adjust. And I got to give credit to Julie and Carrie for taking that every issue. It's a different level for us.
Speaking of taking it to the next level, you've done a mission and a vision for the magazine. Can you share that, Carrie?
I can. I'm going to read it directly, though. So, Definitive Woman's mission statement is, Definitive Woman magazine focuses on important issues to women: self-improvement, health, family, careers, fitness, nutrition, cooking, personal economics, motivation, home decor, fashion, lifestyle, culture, and the arts. And our basic goals for our magazine are to educate, to entertain, to encourage, and to envision all of those things. So all of our content, Carol, really wraps around our goals, and we try to have each story match 1 to 2 of those goals, and to talk about, kind of elaborate on what Brian had said. If you look at a magazine scale, magazines either skew more towards books or more towards newspapers. We are very biographical, so we skew quite a bit more towards the book end of the spectrum versus a newspaper end of the spectrum. So that's kind of the simplest way that I can explain part of that content.
Great. And Brian, could you talk a little bit about distribution and circulation?
Sure. Distribution, coming up with the right quantity. We started off distributing 10,000. It was mostly a guess at that time. We now are at 7,500, which seems to be the perfect number considering we are a quarterly publication. Distribution was something that was really important to me, starting off with something that was new like this. We had an idea of what business we thought would be great at distributing it, but we also wanted to keep it small at first and then get people to come to us and say, we want to distribute your magazine, because we knew that they would take interest and take care and take a personal interest in making sure that the magazine was displayed properly, the racks would remain full. They would call us and let us know that more magazines were needed, which we love to hear that. Our big break in distribution was having Eldon's be a distributor. Sometimes it's difficult to keep the racks filled at Eldon's, which is good. We've added Pete's County Market, and Trum Drug has been with us since day one, absolutely instrumental in making sure that Definitive Woman was well known in the community, as well as Trum Drug is known. So we really thank Trum Drug for signing on with us. They're such a big part of our magazine with the trends section. Just the first big advertiser for us that really believed in what we were doing. Other advertisers too, Bremer Bank and Bell State Bank were two that jumped on board right away and have been with us from the beginning. And 22 issues, 5+ years in, they're still here with us.
Our 20th issue, our 5-year anniversary issue, we marked with a cover of all of our cover girls. And we also kind of documented our timeline on when we added our first employee. And that person is actually Lynn Barton, and she's our senior graphic designer on staff. And she handles multiple things with the advertisers and the trends section, and just overall office support for us. And she's also instrumental for us. We've had lots of comments, and sometimes when you're in the office, it's hard to touch base with all of our readers, and Carol's instrumental for that, and other sales staff to be able to be out in the community and get the comments. And we often hear, I read it cover to cover, and I read it all the ads, and that's wonderful to hear. That never gets old. We love to hear that. A recent comment we received was a lot of people have saved every issue and have kept it as women's history, documenting the Alexandria Lakes area, and so that's been that's been a real highlight for us.
Yes, and I've heard from readers also that they really like the fact that the stories are about local women, and they do read it from cover to cover. I'm hearing that also. Moving forward, where is the next challenge? What's down the horizon for Definitive Woman magazine?
I think we need to just keep doing exactly what we're doing. You touched on the local stories about local women, and that was one of my concerns starting out, was, is there going to be enough content locally to have this magazine survive? And I think Carrie would agree, we've been overwhelmed with the opportunities of people making recommendations, or you should write about this person, or you should get in touch with this person. It's been an overwhelming amount of opportunities, And I often make the joke that we have more stories, than we do, space, which makes it good for us down the line, and that the stories keep coming in. Some have to wait. Try to have a good, sharing of the advertisers who support this magazine, because without them, we're not printing and we're not putting them in the racks. We need those advertisers, and the ones that we have, I mentioned a handful of them have been with us all this time, have bought into our vision and our goals, and they're still here today. But keep doing exactly what we're doing, and don't compromise the quality of the writing, of the ad, the way the ads look and present themselves, and it's easy as just keep doing what we're doing.
Great.
Yep.
You have contributors at the magazine that write for you. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, that has been absolutely just amazing journey to watch, and to work with Julie and see how that has played out. We span 8 decades. Women are amazing. I mean, we have writers that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and now 90s. Our associate editor is Marge Van Gorp, and multi-talented woman. She's just turned 90, and we celebrate that with her. And it's been very fulfilling and rewarding, and it keeps it interesting.
Special interest stories. One that really comes to mind for you when you think about the different stories that have been told. Each issue I have a favorite. That's the easiest way to say it is each issue I have a favorite. Some of the things that have been consistent throughout is Lindeen Way's Caring Way column, and that has been inspirational for me, and I really look forward to what her messages are in each issue, and I know that she's got quite a following, and so as far as a column goes, that has been just wonderful. I guess like I said, I look forward to a different one in each issue. I'm never completely satisfied. There's always room to grow and expand and get better at our craft, and so that's my short answer.
I've always considered Lindeen's column the foundation of our magazine. Was it designed to be that way at the beginning? I don't think it was. I can't imagine the magazine not having it in there. I mean, as long as Lindeen wants to write, hopefully for as long as Marge, right? As long as Marge, that would be great for us. To play off what Carrie said, sometimes a story just catches you off guard that you didn't think was going to be such an amazing story. And sometimes, as the staff of the magazine, we read these things over and over again, and it becomes commonplace for us to be maybe already done with the story in our head. We've read it, but then it comes out in the actual print, and you read it again, and you just realize how wonderful that story is. There's not a bad one in the bunch. Some are going to be interesting to some people, some not to others, but for the most part, they all have something that draws you to want to read it and say that was great. And part of that is the writing of it too. The writers that we have, like you mentioned, the contributors, how well they write, how they can take that story and make it readable for everybody.
So you've talked about the contributors, you've talked about distribution and circulation, how the magazine got started, your mission, your vision. Is there anything else you'd like to add, talk about with the magazine?
Just keep giving us feedback on what you would like to see, where you would like to see it, and encourage anybody in the business world that has a business to support it and place ads and help us keep growing.
And how would I contact you if I was someone who is interested either in advertising or writing for the magazine or distributing the magazine in my place of business? We all have different roles, and on the inside, page 5, I believe, of each issue has a list of contact information for Brian, myself, Lynn, for advertising or for story ideas. Ultimately,
you'd want to go through Julie Zolke, our editor. We do have questionnaire type forms. We have a list of different story types. So if you want to nominate someone, you have the opportunity to do that. If you want to tell your business's story, we also have a venue for that. And if you want to be a contributing writer, then Julie will work with that person as the editor, and you'll be bylined, and you'll be able to tell that story. And like Brian said, a lot of these stories come to us or via a phone call, or you're standing in the grocery store and someone says, "You should write about this person," and I just that's just wonderful. Most of the time I don't have a pen, so I say go to the website, find the forms. As far as advertising portion goes, that would be a salesperson like yourself, or contacting Brian at the main office number, and that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
And all the information's on definitivewoman.com too. If you can email any one of us, and based on the content of the email, we're going to get that to the right person to follow through on it.
Right, you have a website, you have the contact information in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You also have a blog now. Julie writes a blog.
Yep.
So that's new, and
Mm-hmm.
watch for that. And you can connect through the contact information on the website.
Right.
Yes. You can.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to the next Definitive Woman magazine. Can
Thank
you
you.
tell me, just before we leave today, when they can expect to see the new magazine on the shelves?
We have the current one out now, which just, September 15th, which was less than half a month ago. And the next one will be right around December 15th, correct?
Yep. Quarterly, basically, spring,
seasons.
summer, autumn, winter, and usually about mid-month of that with our production cycle. And yeah.
Carrie and Brian, thank you very much for
Thank
the
you.
great magazine about women in Alexandria and the surrounding
welcome.
community.
Thank you, Carol. We appreciate all that you do for us, and really appreciate all of our advertisers and supporters that have been with us and continue to support us. We are advertiser driven, and they're essential to everything we do.
Right, because without advertisers, we can't deliver this magazine free to the readers.
That's right.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.